Wait, are you are you gonna count me in? Whatever. I'm just gonna go for it. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and as a child of the 80s, I'd love to say queens rule, but they don't. Queens lead. Being a queen means you are worthy to be a leader of people. The guests on our show do exactly that. They are leading the way in their businesses, families, and communities. And they're taking their rightful place in the spotlight, leading and inspiring the developing queens in all of us. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast.
Now here's your host, Amy Singleton, the queen of realness, leading conversations about business, life, and the real shit you want to know.
Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Queen's Lead podcast. Today I am stoked, and I am really seriously saying stoked because I'm kind of tired of hearing people say they're excited. I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm so excited for. Yeah, we get it. You're excited people, but truly Stacy Eads is the name. If you talk about leadership, corporate development, I haven't even met her in person. And no matter who I ask, Stacy's name is the one that comes up. And we are in the middle of a big Oklahoma push here. All of the women on the podcast from here until the foreseeable future are Oklahoma women. So I am stoked to have Stacy Eads here. She is a business coach and consultant. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you for having me. I love the word stoked. I'm stoked to be here.
I'm stoked to have you. So I'll read a little bit of your bio, but then I'll kind of just like let you introduce yourself. Stacy has been helping high achieving executives to embrace their leadership potential for years. She is an international scaling up business coach, and her one-page strategic plan approach drives 2 times the cash flow, 3 times the profit, and 10 times the business value with a clear roadmap to get there. And she is a keynote speaker, woman in tech, global business coach, and super high demand for C-suite teams, especially as it relates to leadership, people, strategy, and execution, and also cash. Named 50 Women Making a Difference and the most admired CEO 3 years in a row by the Journal Record here in Oklahoma. So Stacy, where did you begin to get all of all of those places?
I'm officially blushing. My journey began in nonprofits, believe it or not. My very first career was with a local Oklahoma agency. It's called Citizens Caring for Children, and they help foster care youth who've been abused or neglected, taken from their homes and put into the state system. And through that journey of my very first career, being nonprofits, being mission driven, being all about the heart and giving back and helping others, that just kind of shaped the rest of my career. Once you have that experience, I didn't know how to go into corporate America and not tie my heart with the business at that level. So even if I did at some point exit the nonprofit industry and enter technology, it was always really important to me to continue to mentor and be a part of a community in that way. I just have to be able to put head and heart together. It's just who I am.
Wow. So did you grow up here in Oklahoma?
I did. Yeah, I was born and raised in Edmond, and then was a CEO in the Norman, Oklahoma community. And now I live on 5 acres in Newcastle, Oklahoma with my husband and my dog.
I love it. You've just been all over the little metro area right here. So talk about knowing it well. So you said you exited nonprofit and went into tech. What was that like? That's a huge jump.
It was a jump, right? I always give credit where credit is due. So I was working in nonprofits and I was doing really PR. So I was writing their newsletters and things along those sorts, doing all of their speeches for United Way for that organization. And I had a wonderful executive director at that time. Her name was Patty Pace. And when we were talking one day, she said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years? Where do you want to be?" Right? Like that typical question. But it wasn't a typical question for me on that day. Like when she asked it and I was at that age, it was a pivotal moment for me because I actually thought,
what do I want in 10 years? Right?
I want to be like you. It was my answer. I wanted to be somebody who was a woman who was in charge and seen with the level of respect that she was seen. And she gave me some really unique advice. And that's what led me to technology. She said, okay, if you want to be like me and be an executive director of a nonprofit someday, where do you think my ladder was? Like, where was the last rung on my ladder? And I said, well, you worked at a bank. And she said, does that open your eyes at all to the fact that you can go do other things and you can come back
Hmm.
to nonprofit, or you can go into corporate America and you can be on a board of directors for a nonprofit? You don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to spend your entire career as a full-time employee of a nonprofit. And that
Yeah.
led me to asking a woman across the hallway from me. Her name was Trish. And she said, yeah, I'll help you with your resume. I'll help you look around, see what else is out there. And her husband worked at a technology company. And that was my first job interview outside of the
Wow.
realm. I took it, ran with it, and technology was my life for the next 10 to 20 years.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about not, I've said it, I just said this yesterday to someone. I felt like when I was younger, and I'm 42, but I didn't feel like I knew that I had the option to do something else, to turn and make a different decision because like I don't know what it was about the 80s or 90s, but they set you on this track, right? And like you just go, this is what you do next, right? You just take the next step in
Yeah.
line, right? But you obviously had such a gift that that woman gave you, just in that knowledge to know that you could take that step out. I love that.
Yeah, just the ability for mentors in your life to have these pivotal moments where they help you think outside the box or ask yourself a question that you would not have asked, when you woke up that morning. It was a
Yeah.
pivotal moment for me.
Yeah. And so what did the tech work look like?
So literally what you and I are using here today with Zoom, I was
Yeah.
a part of some of the original companies. I mean, I don't even want to date myself. It's probably more than 20 years ago. We created the first webcasting platforms in which
Oh,
people were
wow.
able to view screens and write on things and be able to do the video conferencing software. So that was
Oh
that
my
first
gosh.
technology job. It was pretty exciting, pretty amazing opportunity to be able to learn from the ground up from there.
That's so incredible. And what a shift from, I mean, from nonprofit to this. I'm wondering, like, did you have any kind of example of an entrepreneur in your life that you could kind of see your way to eventually doing what you're doing now and owning, your own business and doing what you do?
I didn't. This was genuinely just a journey of self-discovery. Talk about going from the nonprofit to tech and how like opposite worlds that might feel.
Yeah.
About it from the hierarchy of where I thought my career was going. I had a business card and it said I was a director of public relations. Ooh, how fancy, right? For your young age. And then
Yeah.
when I went to interview for this position at the tech company, I was interviewing to be an executive assistant. Like there's
Hmm.
not going to be a business card. There's not going to be a fancy title. You're not in charge of anything, right? Um,
Yeah.
need to literally assist the executives. And I thought, okay, I'll go through this practice interview. I'll just get my feet wet, see what this is like, get a little bit better at this interview thing, and then I'll go for something that I really want. By the
Yeah.
time I left that interview, I decided this is what I really want. I don't care what the
Wow.
title is. Let me learn. I want to be a sponge and I want to learn here. So, luckily, that guy, his name was Eddie Roach, gave me a shot. And because I had a journalism background from the University of Central Oklahoma, he felt like I might be able to take really great meeting notes for him and the executive team. And that's
Oh man.
I learned everything. Like, Amy, imagine that you're sitting in a room and you're able to absorb, why is the product department doing that with the software? What is the customers asking for? What do the executives want behind the scenes? Like, you're absorbing and listening to all of that business and technology
Wow.
knowledge. So I just rose through the ranks at that point. I don't even know if I took notes for individuals for less than, maybe it was like 3 months. And an executive
Wow.
from the New York office called and asked me to join the training team. So I was able to
Wow.
move on from there.
Talking about an MBA. I mean, like that takes me back to nursing school when I was a nurse before I did this. And I just remember taking notes and taking notes and taking notes. But when I got in the room with the people who were doing it, that's when my real note taking started to happen. Like that's when I really learned. And so to me, it sounds like you got an MBA in real time in about 3 months flat.
100%. I definitely agree with you.
That's incredible. So when, take me back, you said you wanted to do it with this company. What was it about that company? I just have a feeling that that must have shaped the way you're training companies to be now because you talk about it with such joy.
Okay, now don't fall out of your chair because this is kind of a funny one. I was still in my early teens and 20s, right? So the legit reason that they blew me over and I absolutely had to work there was that this was
Yeah.
at the beginning of the dot-com before the bubble burst. So there were pizza parties, dartboards, ripped jeans. I mean, it was all the cool stuff, okay? I wanted to be
Yeah.
there for all
Okay.
the cool stuff.
Yeah. It was the vibe though. Obviously,
Yeah.
you picked up on there was some kind of culture even back then within this. I mean, there weren't a lot of companies doing that kind of thing back then
Yes,
with the
it was
culture.
definitely company culture, but it was also just new. I wanted to
Yeah.
be able to be in a room full of people who were talking about something that I knew nothing about. And
Hmm.
so that was just an enjoyable just thought process of like, can I stretch myself? Can I encourage myself to do something like this in this way? Step out of the comfort zone of nonprofits. You've been there for 3 years, go into
Yeah.
something that you don't know anything about. But I mean, if every day is filled with ripped jeans and pizza and ping pong tables. I mean, how could it be bad?
Yeah, I mean, you're 20 years old. Heck yeah, I'm here for that. That's incredible. So 20 years there, you said you went to New York or was on that team, and then eventually you made your way back to Oklahoma. Tell us about the leap from corporate into, I'm going to be my own boss.
Yes. So I always actually stayed in Oklahoma, but that tech company
Mm,
had different satellite offices. So eventually I had a manager who was
awesome.
in New York, but I did stay here within my home state. And at a certain point, I wasn't in that particular tech company, but I had opportunities that individuals who had worked there. This is why networking is really important and not
That's
burning
right.
bridges and always keeping those friendships, right? Way before Facebook was a thing and it was actually easy on LinkedIn to keep track of people.
Yes.
We all kept track of each other and we still have great friendships to this day from that company.
Wow.
One of those individuals had started his own technology firm down in Norman, Oklahoma, and he
Wow.
kept touch with me. I'd say it was about maybe every 6 months he'd come and take me to lunch and just say, "What are you doing these days?" And he would always say, "What are you learning?" And it was very
Mm,
interesting, eye-opening lunches, and he'd always close our lunch by saying, "Someday you're going to come work for me. I'm just not ready for you yet." And he
wow.
kept that thread running for several years until I was ready. And I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, we're always having this witty banter about someday. What if
Yeah.
someday is now?" And I went to go work for that technology company in Norman. And when I did that, that was really when I reached home. I was there for 10 years, grew the business about 600% its size, really
Wow.
enjoyed the scaling up journey. And that's what led me to where I am today because I was scaling up that company as a CEO eventually with them. And I found
Yeah.
scaling up and I went to some workshops that Vern Harnish and people like that were putting on. And so when I was ready for, again, like what's the next challenge in life? I got to have something new, something that challenges me. I thought, what if I flipped the script? And instead of being a customer of scaling up, I was a coach of scaling up. What if what I
Wow.
did at this technology company with growing it, what if I could help other CEOs grow their companies like that too? So that's just
Yeah.
kind of the evolution of my journey from nonprofits into technology, and then having that eye opening moment of realizing what's next for me is on the other side of this scaling up book.
Oh my gosh. So you just picked up the book to grow the company you were working for, and next thing you know, you're growing other companies.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's just so incredible. And it's so scary. I mean, that's such a scary jump to go, you've had all of this huge network of support, under you, so to speak, in that corporate world. And then, what were some of the challenges that you faced when you were first starting out?
Making the decision, making the decision, and making the decision.
Really,
That was
really.
number 1, 2, and 3 on the list because I am
Yes.
not generally a risk taker. You know, everybody's
Yeah.
got different pros and cons and different areas of their personality, and risk taking is just not one of mine. And you would
Yeah.
think, like the entrepreneurial spirit, it's very risk taking and oriented. But I really needed my husband in that instance. He was my rock, and I had been
Mhm.
thinking about it on and off, just kind of casually for about 12 months or so. I'd interviewed some other coaches of different programs and said, do I really want this? What's the good, bad, and the ugly? Like what do the bad days really look like, right?
Yes.
Like I gotta know all the things. I'm the kind that needs to know from A to Z before I'm gonna take the first step of A to B. So
Yes. Oh, I
years
totally
of
get that.
research. And then finally my husband said, I believe in you. You can do this. What do you need to make your decision? And that's what
Wow.
it really took in the beginning. The biggest challenge was literally just saying yes to what I
Yeah.
knew in my heart that I wanted. That was the biggest challenge.
Wow. And to have his blessing and support means everything. I know. I mean, if is he an entrepreneur?
He's not. So he is a parts manager. He works in Oklahoma City at a car dealership, and
Yeah.
he's had this incredible, like 20 plus year history in this one industry. And it was very, very helpful. Obviously,
Mhm.
anybody who's ever been married before knows that if you're going to take the leap and you're going to create a company or you're going to quit your job and be a solo entrepreneur, any of those kind of things, you definitely need some support at home for those
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah, it's huge. And when they don't, when they're not coming from the same place you're coming from, sometimes that support's not always there. So you were really, really blessed to have that.
Yeah.
So talk to me about some of your clients. Like, who are you helping, and with what?
Yes. So my clients are individuals who usually they come to me and they say, we know that we need strategic planning, but I also know that as the boss, I can't be the one standing at the front of the room telling everybody it's a safe space. You can say anything you want.
Right. Yeah.
Most clients come to me saying, we need strategic planning. We know that we need a third party neutral facilitator in order to get it done. And the
Hmm.
majority of them actually have read the Scaling Up book. At some point,
Mm.
they've heard about Vern Harnish, whether it be from the EO, that entrepreneurs organization, or whether it be from YPO. They've heard about him, they've seen him on stage, or somebody has passed along a book to them at some point, and they're reaching out to find a coach who will do the strategic planning, but make sure that they're doing it in a way that they're going to get a result of a one-page strategic plan that really gives them the roadmap of what's our 10-year dream of where we're headed. And I
Mm.
really enjoy breaking that down into what are the 3-year milestones that we'd like to reach. And now tell me the very specific SMART goals that you'll get done in the next 12 months that'll get you to those 3-year goals, that'll get you to that 10-year, big, hairy, audacious goal that you might be thinking about. And then we break it
Yeah.
down one step further and we do quarterly sprints. So it's really important to me that when I'm matching and pairing with customers, they're typically going to be companies who are scaling up. They've been scaling up really fast. They're having growing pains, right? Like that's
Mhm.
normal. They're going to have some growing pains when they go from this size to this size. And they
Yeah.
want a system so that every 90 days, a coach is coming in with their C suite executives in a room. Imagine me with a bunch of Post its all over the wall and markers, with the lady
Yes.
that's running around with all the markers. And we're going to get out all those ideas. It's going to be a safe space, a neutral strategic planning ground. And then they're going to walk away with that ROI of having a one-page strategic plan with everybody on the same page.
Wow. Yeah. That's what so many people need, but so many people don't take the time to do, first of all. And second of all, like you said, having the leader of at the helm trying to get all those ideas, it really does take a neutral third party to facilitate something like that.
Yeah, that absolutely. And everybody's going to meet themselves where they're at this time, right? If they're a small business and what they can do is put together a strategic plan with them at the helm, great. Don't not
Yeah.
do it. Go ahead
Right,
and
for
get
sure.
that done, right? But there will be a day in which you grow to the point where you would like to afford a professional to come in and do this so that you can take a seat. You can
Yeah.
participate. You can have more think tank time yourself
Yeah.
rather than just being worried about the agenda and are we on time and am I asking all the right questions and are they being honest with me? Just take a seat.
Yes.
I got
Yeah.
this. I
I
got you.
got this. Just go be part of the team. We got this over here, right?
Yes.
Um, how much, this is such a loaded question. I'm sure you'll laugh. How much psychology goes into this with the leader, with the main leader?
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely not trained in that background. I can promise you some everyday life psychology definitely
Right?
comes into it.
For
There's
sure.
there's a lot for sure. From a CEO perspective, there's a lot of weight on the owner or the entrepreneur's shoulders. They feel the weight of 200 employees, 50 employees. These are people's paychecks, they're their livelihoods, it's their
Yeah.
families behind them that are being supported by this company. So when they're making strategic directions and they're thinking, should I go this way or should I go that way? Is it time for the new product or should I stick with what I already have? Those are
Mhm.
big decisions for them. And
Yeah.
sometimes, if you've never been in those shoes, which luckily I've had the opportunity to be in those shoes as a CEO and then be coaching CEOs, that
Yeah.
is the thing that I think bridges the gap and helps that they understand that I have been there. And
Yeah.
even if I haven't done that specific industry or that specific size business, they can understand that I was under those kind of pressures too. And I can
Yeah.
relate to the things that they're struggling with.
Yeah, for sure. Because I don't know about other CEOs, but like my feed is full of people calling themselves coaches that have never played the game.
There are so many different types of coaches and consultants, and everybody
Yeah.
might have their niche or something that they're really great at. And when I first started, a ton of people would ask me, "Oh, well, can you do this for me? Or can you do that for me?" And it felt
Yeah.
really nice once I got settled into this is what I offer, this is my routine, this is what I'm amazing at, and being able to say no to things that you're not amazing at. That's a really
Oh,
great gift
yes.
whenever you can get to the level of business of doing that. And that's where I've been for several years now. This last month, I actually started my 5th year. So we have been doing this
Wow.
for 5 years. Thank you, husband,
Yeah.
for like believing in me that very first step of those first couple of years.
Yes.
But it's been amazing. It's been a wonderful opportunity to be able to feel as though they teach me just as much as I teach them, and that we
Yeah.
learn and we grow together, but that they have a support system and that they're not all alone when they're laying there in bed and unable to sleep and a million thoughts are running through their mind, a ton of stress is sitting on their shoulders. They have somebody they
Yeah.
can talk to about it.
Yeah. 100%. Take me back to when you okay, this is a big problem in business. If you are new in business, you're thinking about leaving your corporate 9 to 5 and starting to do something, what Stacy said earlier about people coming to you asking, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? That was one of the hardest things when I started my marketing agency. I've had people come like, can you do this thing? Can you do that thing? And it's so hard not to take that work when you're just starting out and you need that money. But it may not necessarily be the thing that you're really good at. Can you give us a little bit more on kind of how you navigated that? And did you take on some projects that really weren't a good fit? And like, maybe what did you learn from that?
What I learned from it is that nobody's perfect, right? I definitely made some of the missteps, but what I learned eventually was that I have two specific offers, two specific plans. This is what I do, this is what I know. I can give you the best ROI for these two
Mhm.
packages. And if you're the ideal client that fits those two packages, we're going to be together for the next 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So what was helpful to me was I noticed the times that when I would be on a one-to-one with somebody and they would say, "Could you do this?" I
Mhm.
needed to take 5 or 6 days to think about, well, how would I price that and how would I write that up and what kind of proposal would that be? And that
Yeah.
was my indicator that it was not a good fit. If I have to
Yeah.
write something from scratch just for you, then that's not my program. That's not, what
Mm.
we're able to do from an ROI perspective, the absolute best. And so that first
Yeah.
year I might have done, 3, 4, 5 different projects like that. And I started to realize that when I felt guilt getting off the phone, that like, oh, I really don't want to write that proposal. I don't know what to say. How long is this going to take me? I have to think about this from scratch. I thought, why am I doing that to myself? Hi,
Yeah.
hello. I decided to be in business for myself. I can
Yes.
choose not to do this.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. And that's such a huge realization that I'm so glad you had that on your own like that, because I've been there so many times sitting here going, okay, they don't exactly fit into what we offer, but I like this person, or I got into this to serve, or this or that. And you're right. It is a weight on you. But what I realized too, I think, was that you hit the nail on the head a while ago when you said, um, when you're working with the right person, you're going to be together forever. Really, when you are sitting in front of or next to the right person, they will fit within your offer. They will fit within what your level of expertise are. And otherwise, how about that network of people we know that maybe can fill that need that maybe we're not exactly right for? That's a beautiful
100%.
place to get to
I spent
because, yeah,
years in this greater Oklahoma City area being a part of the chamber, being the ambassador chairwoman, going to the Edmond chamber, the Norman chamber, the Moore chamber, all the chambers, right? And
yep.
so for me, I did have a network of people that I could refer them to. And that
Hmm.
actually helps me a ton. Anytime that I talk with somebody and they don't really fit the kind of package structure of what I offer, and that's what's best for us in a collaboration, I
Yeah.
literally will call that other person and say, here's their name, here's their number. I've already told them that you'll be calling. And
Yeah.
I'm able to pass off that referral to somebody who's just going to be a better fit for them.
Right. 100%. Oh my gosh, that's so good. So, okay, tell this time is going by quicker than I expected. Tell us the two ways that people can work with you specifically.
Well, the main two things that I work with is anybody who needs a keynote speaker. So if
Mhm.
you are a part of a conference that's being put on, whether it's in the state of Oklahoma or whether it's out of the state of Oklahoma, I'm open to discussing those kind of things. I love to shine on stage and be able to give back. That is something that is really a ton of fun for me. So whether it is a small group that just needs somebody to come in, or whether it's going to be a big, massive conference, I'm open to having discussions about keynote speaking. The second thing is from the business coaching perspective, the best kind of individuals to reach out to me are going to be companies that are growing. They're probably have already crested that $1 million mark, and they might even be over $5 million at that point. And they're
Mhm.
anywhere between 5 million to 250 million. Those are the types of companies that I'm working with. And I like to tell them, listen, it's not about the numbers. It's not about how much revenue you bring in or how big you
Yeah.
are, or how many employees you have. Let me tell you what it's about. If you can put people in a room together and say, I trust these people to have brainstorming sessions about the future of our company,
Mhm.
then we're a good fit. But if you
Yeah.
are so small that that room would be you, yourself, and you,
Yeah.
we're probably not the best fit, right? Because what I
Right.
do is a team environment. And so that's when I'll pass off the referral to another business coach who might want to do a lot more one-on-one working or with solo
Yeah.
entrepreneurs or people like that. But generally I'm working with companies who have a couple of executives to put around a table so that I can throw up a bunch of post-its on the wall.
Listen, Stacy needs to use the Post-its.
Where's my sponsorship?
That's right. That's right. Oh man. Do you remember that movie, the Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion where they claim they invented Post-its? It's the best. It was the
I,
best. I was so
I definitely am one of the biggest 3M users.
that's so funny. It's a proprietary glue. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Tell me what you love about our home state.
Oh my goodness. I have genuinely been here my whole life. I was born and raised in Edmond, and I always make the joke that when most kids are going off to college, that's when they move away. Instead, my
Yeah.
parents moved away from me.
Oh,
So
they did.
my dad was in the oil and gas industry, and
Yeah.
they moved to the Houston area. So when my family moved to Texas, I said, no, I'm going to stay in Oklahoma. And
I
that's when I
love it.
was, going to UCO, and I was switching from the nonprofit into the tech world. And so I just decided, no, this is where I was born and raised, and this is where I'll stay. So I do have family that's down in Texas. And then my mom and dad just retired and they split the difference. They're living right on the state line between Oklahoma and Texas. Um,
Really, I love it.
yeah, I love it
That's
here.
funny.
I think that especially if you're building business in Oklahoma or if you're a salesperson, this is such a generous community to be in. The greater
Mhm.
Oklahoma City area in particular, I just feel like the networking community is really strong and people are there for one another. They develop real friendships and they
Yeah.
want to have those referral partners. And I would not at all be where I am today if it wasn't for that network and that community of people who lifted me up throughout the years so that I can stand where I am today.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's because of that network that I have you on this podcast right now. I mean, Randy Gardner, which is a mutual friend, that's the executive director of the Habitat for Humanity here at Rose Rock. he sings your praises all the time. I made a post in a local group. A million women tagged Stacy as an expert and an influential woman that I had to speak with. So thank you, Stacy, so much for gifting us your beautiful time today and your story. It's incredible. I'm so grateful for your presence here. Is there anything that you would like for the public to know, a piece of advice for women listening?
Well, I would like to offer to anybody if they are kind of questioning whether or not scaling up is right for them. Am I big enough company? Am I too small?
Yeah,
What does she mean by her ideal client? I just want to be
yeah,
sure that everybody feels safe and confident that you can email me at any time. I have an
nice,
8-page summary. It's like a little Cliff Notes version of the book. I can send it to you, and in 8 pages or less, you can know whether this is right for you. And I'm
nice.
more than happy to do that. It's just Stacy@stacyeads.com, and we can put it in the comments of the podcast. But if you want to
Yes.
email me, I'm happy to give you a quick recap of the book. And for those who think, no, I think I've already read the book and now I'm just not sure if I'm ready for a coach, I can
Yeah.
also email you. There is a quiz that you can take. It takes less than 6 minutes, and it'll
Oh,
actually
nice.
rank you and give you a score in those areas of people, strategy, execution, and cash. Those are the four basic decisions that we talk about in the scaling up community. So they can take a completely free assessment. Um, there's no reason to be scared to email me or to reach out in any way, shape, or form. We're not cool enough to have any kind of email funnels. You're not going to be getting additional things from me just yet. From my
That's
perspective, I really only have 2 spots left on my client roster. So I'm not out there overly engaging with individuals who just want to really get a little bit more information. I'm happy to do that in
sure.
just a minute.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you so much for that gift. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you, Stacy, for being my guest. And thank you for being a queen that leads.
Thank you.
The Queen's Lead podcast is recorded worldwide and produced by the kick-ass media team at the Height Digital home base in Nicaragua. Until our next episode, stay real, queens, and go lead. Remember to tap that follow and leave your review. For freebies and more real, inspiring content you love, go to amysingleton.net and connect with Amy on our socials at The Real Amy Singleton.
One more thing. This is the legal language, what my lawyer wrote and what I need to read to you. This podcast is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am Amy Singleton, and I'm just your friend. Although I may speak to many on this show, I am not a psychotherapist, a business coach, a doctor, a CPA, a lawyer, or probably anyone who should be giving you professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for a relationship with your doctor, coach, or any other licensed professional. Got it? Good. Now go be a queen and follow me at The Real Amy Singleton.